الحمد لله رب العالمين وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله ولي الصالحين وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين بارك الله فيكم وجزاكم الله خير. We are continuing this conference inshallah, and yesterday we spoke about addiction. And we spoke about how addiction weakens specifically men. And you have to understand that everything in this dunya, even though from the hukum perspective, halal is halal and haram is haram for both men and women. And that's, no one can deny it. But there are differences. And sometimes we don't realize that there are differences in the outcomes of something that is halal or haram. You guys understand that? So for example, there are certain things that might be haram for both men and women, yet the outcomes of them are different. Give me one example. So, the hukum of halal and haram applies the same for dhakar wal untha, same. But the outcomes of that sin can be very different. Can you give me one example? Zina. Okay, how so? Exactly. People will say, well, halal is halal, haram is haram. Yeah, no doubt. No one says so. Of course. But the outcome is different. A woman's going to get pregnant. A guy can take off, man. Ma salama. Yeah? You go in another state, you won't see him. Try catch him. Okay, you can say, but it's not fair. That's the way the fitrah is, man. And the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created. It's not that it's unfair. It's just, there's a difference in the way we are. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I think Sheikh Hamza was talking about specific words in the Quran and, mubalagha and order of words and specific usage of words and so on. So just off the top of my head, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, Surah An-Nur, Az-zaniyatu waz-zani, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions first the woman and then the man. Yet in another surah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, As-sariku was-sariq. First man, then woman. So the ulama say, why? And it's not just, there's many examples of when and how Allah mentions certain words. So the mufassirin, لماذا قدم الله سبحانه وتعالى الزانية, the woman, الزانية على الزاني? Why? Why first the woman and then the man? Because the outcomes are different. For zina to happen, the woman really has to agree. If not, that's why there's men with rape. If they want to take intimacy or sex, the man usually, astaghfirullah, they will rape. Unless the woman agrees, she's the gatekeeper. She's the one who has to open the gate. That's just the way it is. And the ulama have commented on this. They said if the man commits zina, it's his shame, really. And in general, he kind of disappears. But if the woman will have the traces of that sin carried upon her. The shame will be on her, her family, her tribe. Al-Mujtama', the whole society will see this. It's the way it is, subhanAllah. And even if you want to try to change this, even if you work really hard through educations, subhanAllah, even the kuffar admit this. Even the kuffar talk about this. Looking at, for example, the sexual double standard and explain it from behavioral economics. The kuffar talk about it. And to summarize, one of the psychologists said, even if we try with the rise of feminism and equality and gender equality to educate, he said, this is not going to change. It's just not changing. Why? Because we're not the same. Even if you try to educate and put a curriculum in all the countries and force it upon people's necks, it just will not change. Because وَلَيْسَ ذَكَرُ كَالْأُنْثَى, the man and woman are the same. And the same way, addiction affects men, and the outcomes of that addiction are much harsher on men and causes much more problem when it comes to weakening men and weakening the sifat that are needed to run this world and the society. When it comes to men, this is very, very... With women, it will have a different effect. It will again go back to her afafa, to her chastity and her value. It will affect her value. If a woman is addicted to, for example, alcohol or marijuana or something like that, most people are going to say what? Yeah, shame on her father. It goes back to shame. It goes back to where there's value in the woman, which is her chastity and her haya. And for the men, what we're going to say, this guy's a loser, he's a junkie, he's a crackhead, right? He's no good. Where's his value? In his performance, in his work, in his strength, in his assertiveness, in what he does. He's a powerhouse. But because of the addiction, he can't do that. Therefore, he's chastised for that. You're no good, man. You're a no good man. For the woman, you start using different words, right? To kind of label her. And even women, they know that. They use it with themselves. Amongst themselves, when they want to put each other down, they will use exactly those specific words. I don't know why they do that. But they do. Right? So these things, no matter how much you try to change it, in the end, it's built in the fitrah of a human being, of how things affect a man and a woman and how the outcomes are different, including when it comes to addiction. There's so many different things in the Sharia when it comes to men and women, how it applies to them. Even in our prayer, there's differences. A lot of people think, no. Yes, there's. Simple. Man, the first saf, the most important. For the woman, the last one. Or it's better for her to pray at home. Right? She gets, but a man, 27 times more reward to pray in Jama'ah. 27 times more, yeah? Sahur. Okay, for the woman, the best place. More than the masjid. Where? In the corner, in the most withdraw area. Why? Because the value of her chastity, of her bashfulness, her shame is so high. She's born with that. All she has to do is maintain it. Cherish it. Man don't have to wear hijab. Woman has to wear hijab. Woman has more things on her. And this is what Allah subhanahu. And a lot of women, they don't like that. They want to rebel against it. But Allah has given you this honor, this value. Like you're born with it. Allah has given it to you, right? But going back to addiction, men, very different. If a man loses his strength, his physical strength, his mental strength, his iman, the society suffers. Well, he's no good. Well, he can provide. That's why you see them on the street. Okay, if he cannot provide, therefore he cannot establish a family. If he cannot establish a family, therefore the ummah becomes weak because the family is the building block. Right? Now he's going to be judged on his performance. Not just that, he's weak. He cannot defend anyone. If he has to get into a fight, can he be recruited to be a soldier or something like that? You know, we keep talking about what's happening with our brothers and sisters in Palestine. Right? And you see those brothers and sisters, those brothers there. And honestly, I don't believe the women have to fight. And I don't know. I hate these videos when I see the sisters saying, yeah, we're going to fight. Yeah, it breaks my heart. Because the men where are the men? You know, they're going for these like marches and they're exposing themselves and it's shameful, Allah. It's shameful, I'm sorry. And I know people get upset and so it's shameful. It's shame on us as men. that they have to, because they're probably saying like, well, where are you guys? So we have to take your spot. But it's shameful. That's not what the Prophet ﷺ wanted. That's not where, he got upset when some women tried to, and I love when the sisters tried to take one or two examples of some of the sahabiyat who, like, Nusayba or Hani or some of the, famous ones that supposedly were like warriors, And these are exceptions that's how their, background was. But in general, the women were not like that. So, it's different. There's a big, big difference. But when you look at the brothers around the world, and there's weakness. There's weakness. Of course, our guys are going to get killed. There's weakness. We don't have the strength and ability to stand up and say, no, this is enough. We don't. Everyone's scared. So, because men are affected like that. Like most of the men today have a phone. Most men, and I'm sorry to be so blunt, have been exposed to pornography. Most men might be addicted. There's a difference between addiction and need, and I'll explain in a bit. Addiction is worse. But yeah, it's a huge, huge toll that it takes on the strength of a man. Okay, for example, it lowers your testosterone levels. So maybe your grandfather at the age of 50 had much higher testosterone than you have at the age of 25. Really. Like he was having children still at the age of 50 maybe. Or your great-grandfather. And a lot of us are struggling to keep our hair on at the age of 20, 25, hair loss, and people are, looking into what they can do, and testosterone replacement therapy already around 30. It's because our lifestyle, our addictions, but specifically these addictions are hurting us. It's documented, by the way. It's not me just saying, it's proven. Testosterone level has gone down in men. It's a male hormone. And they're going up in women. There's a beautiful and interesting documentary. I don't know why, I don't like to say that, but done by a non-Muslim, right? Because somehow that carries, validity. If you say it's done by a Muslim, people are like, right? But when it's done by a non-Muslim. But anyway, there's this documentary. It's called The Disappearing Male. Okay, check it out. It's on YouTube, The Disappearing Male. So this doctor, she noticed through her practice that men were becoming weaker and weaker, hormonal, and just their genetic makeup. And she basically looked at what are the causes, and she basically concluded that the environment is killing men from the time they're in their mother's bellies. While their mothers are pregnant, already they are dying. So they say we're born dying. So she said that, for example, when your mother or our mothers, they wear makeup when they're pregnant, they put makeup on. That makeup goes in their bloodstream and it affects the fetus. Bottles that we drink from, the plastic environment. And subhanAllah, it doesn't affect women the same way as it affects men. It's a very different outcome. Very, very different outcome. But she was saying how testosterone levels go down. For example, even it affects the private part of the man. It affects his performance, affects so many different things. She said they were almost like males are disappearing. It didn't receive as much light as it should have, but I encourage you guys to look at it. It's called The Disappearing Male. And look at the studies, look at what the evidence is documented, and then you can understand what I'm talking about. But going back to addiction, just to review again, so addiction is a complex condition characterized by compulsive use of a substance or engagement in a behavior despite negative consequences. You know there's a negative consequence, yet you are still engaging in it. We talked yesterday about the reward system and dopamine, how the role of dopamine, this neurotransmitter, is associated with pleasure and reward. You feel good, all right? So therefore, you are going to do it again. And this dopamine release reinforces the behavior. You feel good, I want to do it again. All right? You feel like you've achieved something, I want to do it again. However, when it comes to addiction, there's no achievement, it's only the behavior itself, which triggers the release, which triggers the feel-good hormone, which causes the return to the same type of action over and over again. And which leads to, as I said, reinforcement and conditioning, because now you become conditioned. Now, when it comes specifically to pornography, there's a difference between addiction and need. A lot of people don't make that distinction, but see, intimacy is part of like the makeup, the genetic makeup of a human being. It's needed. You cannot almost live without it. It's almost impossible. It's almost there up there with food and breathing and all that. Okay, you need to have intimacy. Now your body is made like that. As a man, your DNA bears witness for you that you need to have intimacy. All right? So there's a need. It's a fundamental, innate need that's built in you. And this is done by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He created you like that. All right? And that's the need. The the manifestation of that need is, of course, nikah. Okay, ya ma'ashar shabab tazawwaj. Oh, young men, get married. Whoever can from amongst you, get married. Prophet ﷺ encouraged marriage. Not just that, he encouraged procreation. And he said that on the Day of Judgment, he will be happy and proud with our numbers. Like to have numbers, you have to get busy on. You know what I mean? It's not, you can't just get numbers like that. No, and there's no shame in it. The Prophet ﷺ said, I will be proud because I want the biggest ummah. He said, they'll be showed to me the ummah of one man, right? Who was it? Who was it, the ummah that was with one man only? Ibrahim alayhi salam, right? And then he was shown the ummah of Musa alayhi salam. He thought maybe that's his ummah, but it was not, right? And he wants to have the biggest ummah and to be proud in our numbers. Okay, so you can do numbers only in two ways. Either you give dawah, mashallah, may Allah bless the brothers who are involved in dawah, or you make babies, right? And this is the way it is. All right, so the Prophet ﷺ, of course, he encouraged this, and it's an important part, and there's many books, and many ulama have spoke about intimacy. There's fiqh around it, there's dua around it, there's everything, okay? And there's, of course, adab and how to talk about it, no doubt. We're not like these people who just, whatever they say today, everything is like that. But it is something that Allah has built in us, and it's very important. Now, when we limit that, the doors for haram open up. And we limiting it. It's our fault. I know there's a lot of but, brother, but, a lot of like 10, 15, 20 buts, yeah? Is going to come as an exception or as a opposition of what I'm about to say. But I say, just listen first. I understand that it's not easy. However, the other option is haram. And indeed, people are choosing haram. It's actually, we're making it hard for ourselves. He's too young. But he's still ready. So what's his option? Obviously, he cannot just wait and fast every Monday and Thursday or every other day and so on. He will. I'm telling you, I tell the parents, brothers and sisters who are parents, I am a parent for many years. The kids are going to see it. They're going to do it. It's going to happen. Yani Allah makes it to happen. Even if you don't know anything, if you're totally guarded away from it, well, guess what? You're going to have a wet dream at some point, and you're going to wonder, what is that? What happened to me? Wow, that felt good. You can't escape it. This is from your fitrah. We're making it difficult for ourselves. We're pushing ourselves around. The mother wants, no, I want from this village, from this tribe, from this. No, not white, not black, not Mexican, not this. He needs to be that. No, but we are putting these things on ourselves. And if you ask the brothers are easy, man. We just had a 1.5 hour podcast on this. Brothers are easy. We established 3 things that we want, right? Deen. Okay, good deen. Right? We want, she just has to be beautiful, man. I mean, come on. It's just, it is what it is, man. Guys think we like that. Come on, I know that. It's true. No, brother, it doesn't matter to me. Yeah, it matters. Okay? Or at least you have to be attracted to it, let's say, right? And we said, like, they have to have, so deen first, right? Under deen comes there's a lot of things that come under deen, right? Most part. And we want them to be like, yani, like chase, not work, not expose themselves, to be like contained. Right? Very few guys are easy. If you ask a guy, he's ready to get married. Today. On the other side, a bit more difficult. And society is pushing it to have 15, 20, 30 different options and rules and tick boxes and so on. And of course, the mother will come and she will like not allow it. And then the father sometimes gets also like, And the Prophet also said, if a man comes with good deen, good khuluq, don't deny them. Because there will be a fitna that will come. A huge fitna that will come. And that indeed we are living that fitna. Brother goes, no, deny. No, you need to get first your bachelor's, then master's, and PhD, then work, then apartment, then fill it up with furniture, and your car. The guy is 35. The sister's 30. Right? And now, problems. Because guess what? Till 35, you're not going to sit there and just like, You're not going to do that. You will be in fitna. We're putting ourselves in fitna. Therefore, now the shaitan came up with an idea. He said, what if a lot of people are still scared of zina. They are. Especially women. Women are scared of zina because of pregnancy. Right? Guys, mostly because of STDs. But there is in the back of their mind, people have some still fear of zina. So Shaitan came up with this amazing idea. He said, what if I give them virtual zina? The zina of the eyes and of the hand, as the Prophet ﷺ said. So then he packaged it all up into, right, these websites and so on. And as we can see by the statistics, yes, indeed, the Muslim countries are up there. Like, no, brother, they're lying. Well, maybe they're lying. I'll tell you why I don't think they're lying. Because all they care is about money. And for them, they need to understand what people are looking at so they can package and create certain content that people will click on. And they make money. There's no point to lie. There's no reason to lie for them because they don't care. It's about money for them. Ethics does not play a role with these people. They don't care if we're going to say that the Muslims are out there, they're watching pornography. Wow. It doesn't matter to them. For them, they care about money. Can we make money? And if you look at the statistics, it covers the whole world by so many different parameters. So it's a reality that we're all exposed to, and it's a shameful thing, but it is an addiction, and there's a need element to it. Because we cannot fulfill the need in the halal, people fall into the haram. When the haram keeps getting repeated, now it can become an addiction. There's some people who fall into it everyone now and then, and they're fighting it and so on. And then there's some people who are literally every single day, twice, 3 times a day, shooting up on this new age drug. And that's addiction. Now it's affecting their lives. Their mom catches it. Their dad catches it. Their sister catches it. They do it at work. They do it on the bus. They do it wherever they can because they can't control themselves. This addiction. A sign of addiction is your prefrontal cortex gets affected, and basically it's responsible for managing impulses. So now you cannot control impulse. So your impulse, the trigger comes in, you see something, you just cut off. You cannot resist that impulse. You're going to find a way to make sure that you are going to give in to that impulse. Impulse, it triggers you, and then the action follows. Right? So, need, addiction. There's a difference. For a lot of people, it's still need, but for many, it becomes an addiction. It goes 10 years, 15 years. By the time they get married, they've been addicted to, about 15 years from first time of exposure. Sometimes 20 years. And then, families say, mashallah, here's your wife, yeah? Again, men, we're responsible. Burden of performance and proof is always on the shoulder of men. So now, things don't work. We wonder how come, divorce happens. And if you get married at 30, it means literally by statistics, by what we see in our studies, first age of exposure today in 2023 is 9 years old. Your average boy or girl starts seeing the first bad content around the age of 9. So if they're getting married at, let's say for the guy, I think the average rate right now is like 28, 30 for men and 25, 26 for women. So do the math, yeah? You're talking about a good 15 years or more for both of addiction or exposure. So then how can the marriage work when this mawadda and the intimacy, this connection is actually the most important part after worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. After unifying yourself on tawheed with your wife, then the first thing that becomes halal to you when you pay your mahar and the aqd has been done is that she is halal for you. And that's why the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ is consummation on the first night. And then walima the next day. This is the sunnah of Rasulullah ﷺ. You don't like it, you think it's rated whatever. This is the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. He loved women. حُبِّبَ إِلَيَّ مِن دُنْيَاكُمْ الطِّيبُ وَالنِّسَاءُ وَجُعِلَتْ قُرَّةُ عَيْنِي فِي الصَّلَاةِ. Allah made beloved from this dunya, women and perfume, but my eyes find tranquility in salah, in prayer. We're not shy. Someone came to me and said, your Prophet, he loved women. I say, yeah, of course, man. We're very proud of that. And he's not these people. plus. And we are very, alhamdulillah, man. We're very proud of that. But we have the solutions, but we cannot do it. Therefore, Shaitan has tricked us, and he's got us, but it makes us weak. It makes us weak. It changes our brain. So your brain has so many neural connections. Some have estimated to be more than than stars in this universe. Imagine that, in our universe. That is a lot. Subhanallah. Can you imagine? And it's all packed in between this hard shell. And it is almost impossible to explain how these connections are made. And then when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that there is evidence and miracles in our own creation, وَفِي أَنفُسِكُمْ, and that this is a sign in the creation of human beings, it's a sign for mankind to reflect. Wallahi, I don't know, when someone studies the human body, how can you be an atheist? Or how can you associate a partner to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? How can you have a corrupt aqidah when when you see these things? Impossible. I don't know. I think it's only arrogance that stops a person from saying La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. Honestly, it's only arrogance. But this brain is very sensitive. And as soon as we feed it something different, it starts changing. There's some plasticity to it. And it is more so when you are younger. And that is exactly where Shaitan targets. As you can see, the youngsters. And there's also shayateen from the ins as well. And that's why they make sure that they custom make these curriculums for the young ones, to make sure that they get them confused and conditioned at that age. Because as you go higher in age, it is a bit more difficult. A bit more difficult. But then again, there's a difference between men and women. It seems that women are still a bit more malleable even though they age, while men become a bit more stubborn with age. So the danger is still there. Now, what are the factors that contribute to addiction? So, of course, there's so many factors, but genetics play a role. And there's a predisposition. Allah didn't tell us something is haram unless we can do it. So Allah didn't say something that is impossible, that it's haram. When Allah made the ahkam and the rulings of what halal and haram, if you analyze it, it's things that can be done. It's things that human beings can actually fall into. Right? Whatever it is, this is how we were programmed. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then He told us how to stay away from it and how to abstain as a test for us. So, indeed, this is this ability to get attached to stuff, to dunya, things from the dunya. This is what Allah has put into us. لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ أَيُّكُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا. So that He may test you, which one of you is the best in deeds. And then, the environmental influences, of course, that we talk always about, specifically the early stages of life, the developmental stages, the early stages. This is an increased vulnerability to addiction. And of course, also the socioeconomic factors would fall under environmental factors: poverty, lack of resources, social environment, and impact. All these have trauma, can actually be have effects on addiction. And that is why when you look at the system of Islam, it targets all these things. And for me, it is very disheartening to see all these think tanks and all these organizations that they have these goals for 2030 and so on. They meet on these very expensive 5-star hotels, spending taxpayers' monies, flying on private jets, putting all these amazing objectives, but they don't want to solve these problems, man. There's no practical, world poverty. How are you going to solve it? No one solved it yet. Okay, Islam will solve it in 1 year. How? Zakah. Simple. If all the Muslims pay the zakah and it's properly done, remember, zakah is not your money, right? It will be taken away from you. It doesn't belong to you. You get punished and arrested if you don't pay zakah. Now it's left to our own good. But if zakah system would be influenced, there will be no poverty. You can do the math. Actually, some people have done the math. It's very simple. But it's not. And many other things. If you look at all the problems that 2030, whatever, they have agendas, all these problems will be solved by Islam. And that's why my question is, do people really want to solve the problems, or they're just talking and meeting and having 5-star hotel meals and all that? We want to see the results. We want to see the plans. It's just talk. It's just talk. Right? Psychological factors for addiction. It is a coping mechanism. People feel stress, tired, weak, sad, and this is a coping mechanism. One of the best things for a man is to go home to his wife and get a nice hug and feel at peace. That's why the sakin, a place of our home in Arabic, al-manzil ساكن يعني بمعنى السكون. It comes from feeling this peace and tranquility, right? But some brothers, man, when they go home, it's like, right? Barely open the door. It's war. I wish sister would understand just that those first 5 minutes when the husband walks into the house, how important it is. If you can fix that, it will change your life. But yeah, men, we value that. That's when the Prophet ﷺ, when first revelation came and he was stressed and sad, he was shocked by meeting Angel Jibreel, the first person he ran to was not Abu Bakr or Umar, Uthman. He ran to Khadija radiallahu anha, right? And in some narrations, we'll look at the authenticity, but he said, Zammiluni, cover me. He was looking for comfort. And that's what men we look for, actually, a lot of times in our wives. So it is a coping mechanism because we don't get that. Now, I'm not blaming that, it's your fault. No, but we need to understand that it is coping mechanism. Of course, co-occurring conditions such as depression, anxiety, mental health issues will accelerate addiction and contribute to addiction. And why are we depressed? We spoke about this today. A lot of us are sad and depressed. And the Prophet ﷺ used to seek refuge in depression and sadness, anxiety. Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-hazni wal-huzn. Right? If you look at the meaning, it is like extreme sadness, extreme and deep sorrow. Huzn. And this is something that even Anbiya experienced. You cannot say, okay, I'm religious, therefore I'll never feel sad. No, the Prophet ﷺ, Sayyidina Yaqub alayhi salam, when he lost Yusuf, Binyamin, and many. This is how the way Allah creates us, human beings. So we're going to feel it. But one of the main reasons why men are feeling sad today, as we talked yesterday, the lack of purpose. When we wake up in the morning, there's nothing really driving us other than a salary and maybe responsibility to pay the bills. And men have never been in this situation for the past thousands of years. It's only recently that this has come into play. So brothers, please try to find your purpose. Allah has given us the purpose. وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. But this ibadah, I'm telling you, it's not restricted to praying in the masjid and fasting Ramadan. Please look at the evidence. Look at the life of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Did he just pray and fast? I'll leave it at that because most of our Islam is only this part of it. We're learning. We memorize, we study, which is very important. But again, I ask you, and Sheikh Uthman was talking yesterday about the importance of the seerah. It is, the ulama used to say, study seerah. Study is very important. Study seerah. It's extremely important. In seerah, you will have Quran. You will have fiqh. You will have aqidah. You will have everything. Tariq. You will have history. Everything is in seerah. Study seerah. Become an expert in seerah. Because with the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, the seerah, it is the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. Unlike other previous prophets, their legacy was not contained. And part of why the message was distorted was because of that. If you looked at Christianity, Judaism, you don't, as Sheikh Uthman would say, where'd you guys get that from? The hat and all that, right? It's a very valid question. They just make it up. For the Muslim, we even know how many white hairs the Prophet ﷺ had in his beard. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. We know very, very detailed things about his life. That's why Imam Malik said it's important to know the Sunnah. The Sunnah is the Seerah. It's not just Haddathana. No, you need to understand the context. There's many hadith on the same topic. You need to really put it all together. And Imam Malik said, As-Sunnah Safinatun Nuh. It is the Ark of Noah. Whoever embarks on it will be saved. Whoever gets off it, it will be destroyed. So study the seerah and understand that there's a mission that each one of us, every one of person in this room here has a mission to fulfill for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is more than just praying and fasting. You need to, wallah, it will change your life. If you can grasp that mission, and it's very clear in our ancestors, and in our ulama, and in all the people that we quote all the time, we need to look at their lives. We need to understand how and what was the main objective for them. And you'll find that it's way beyond praying and fasting. And I challenge you with that, to go and study the Seerah of the Prophet ﷺ. And if you only find salah and prayer in that, that is good, inshallah. It's very important, but you've lost a big part and big chunk of the deen. And may Allah forgive us for our shortcomings. I'll close with, when it comes to the cycle of addiction, initiation, I mean, that's the first exposure. We have to be careful, but the reality is most people will see it. We live in a society that even if you drive on the street, on the highway today, and you look in the wrong direction for a little bit, you're going to see something that's going to be stuck in your head. And especially for young men or women these days, it can be counted as the first exposure. And these things will never be allowed in Islam. Had Islam ruled, you'll never be able to put these posters up and these things in. People will not see them. So children will go through life in general without being exposed to this filth on the streets. It wouldn't be allowed to. Whether it's posters or displays or whatever, or people's dresses, in the end, it's funny because they say it's freedom, but then they'll be the same ones who will say that, yeah, addiction and this and that, and problems and so on. And of course, so initiation, very important to protect as much as we can our children. Number two will be maintenance. Obviously, you develop tolerance. You continue to reinforce it. Escalation, desires. Number C is obviously the withdrawal and cravings. That's people are trying to stop, but then there's withdrawal, and then you crave it. Then, as number 4 is relapse. Of course, you're going to go into relapse mode. The feeling of guilt, binging, and so on. And you're basically conditioning your responses. You're learning association between cues and abuse or addiction. So these are things that we have to understand when we're dealing with addiction. Part of the therapy or the changes is to be educated on these things, to understand them, to know how to deal with them. And last but not least, let's not forget the role, as I mentioned yesterday, of shaitan. How shaitan works so hard into pushing this, using these weapons. Okay, no treatment, no therapy, no doctor in the end can outsmart shaitan. The only way you can beat shaitan is with what Allah told us. It is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's directives, and we try our best. فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ. You have to fear Allah as much as you can and do your best. Allah tells us the preemptive measures as well as the damage control. So stay away, don't do this, لَا تَقْرَبُوا زِنَا, this and that. And then فَتُوبُوا إِلَى اللَّهِ أَيُّهَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ لَعَلَّكُمْ تُفْلِحُونَ. So damage, right? Tawbah, working hard on yourself, doing good deeds, this and that. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us the solutions. Inshallah, tomorrow we'll talk about different treatment approaches, both from, and for me, I say it's a Shari'i perspective. Even when will talk about, like, for example, CBT, like cognitive behavior therapy, you'll find that how that is just pretty much just nasiyah and just understanding things. It's not some therapy, as sometimes the word therapy gets misunderstood. I'll explain to that, inshallah. And a lot of these things were done by the Prophet ﷺ. It's just that the modern day people have just labeled them or categorized them. A lot of the educational theories that you find in the world, the Prophet ﷺ would use that in his da'wah already. Okay, so for example, the usage of diagrams. The Prophet ﷺ used to draw diagrams in the sand to explain things, right? At a time when there's no paper. They didn't have paper. They didn't have paper the way we have today. No way. The first compilation of the Quran was not like that. I mean, for those who have studied that, you'll know what I'm talking about, right? So Prophet ﷺ used to use diagrams, and we know how important visuals are in education, how many theories are around that. The Prophet ﷺ was al-mu'allim, the best, and we find, again, the world will sometimes say that, yeah, this theory, that theory, this new discovery. Yet, when you look at the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ is already there. So, inshallah, we'll navigate this tomorrow. We'll discuss about the treatment approaches, some behavioral therapies, and we'll also talk about the pharmacotherapy or the pharmacotherapy, the abuse of medical drugs, and how America is in a crisis. They are incriminating certain drugs, of course, they are, but then they are legalizing so many other drugs and making money from it. And the world is, so you're going from one addiction or one mental health problem, you're going to another addiction. You're transitioning into another addiction, right? So it doesn't really solve the problem. Barakallahu fikum wa jazakallah khair. If anything good that I said came from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, anything bad from myself, shaitan, wa jazakallah khair. I don't know if there'll be questions or... of cut يعني مدواخ مدواخ yeah مدواخ yeah the thing yeah
you can please clarify like the psychological negative effects that come with it, because many people, they don't know about it because they just see it as a plant.
Yeah, I'm not going to mention which country it's in, but I used to have a lot of students from there. I remember when I was teaching in the desert, I used to line them up as they came into my class and make them spit in the garbage. I used to make them lift their tongue up, and yes. I need to answer his question. Sorry. Yeah. So it basically it has an effect on your mood and your brain, right? It is a muskir, it is an intoxicant. So it changes your cognitive process. You start feeling braver. I think we call it liquid bravery, like alcohol, all these substances, they start changing your cognitive processes. So you don't understand certain social limits and behaviors. For example, conflict becomes very distorted. Someone might say something to you and you will react in a normal case when you're not intoxicated very differently than when you are intoxicated, right? Also, your ability to retain information, your ability to focus is gone. So there are so many, plus not to mention the oral cancers and so many negative physiological, it kind of eats through your gums. So my students sometimes have like holes in their gums, I would have to literally like inspect them because they would sit in my class and they're just high, they're nice kids and everything, but if a fight would start, for example, in my school, it was a disaster, man. I've never seen anything like that in my life, man. When these guys would fight, it would be like 200 people fighting. Like, it was just insane. So, and I would always say, like, you guys, too much, Like, it's not a big deal. Like, why are you guys fighting? It's not a big deal. It wouldn't be a big deal. It was like a war. So, interesting. Yeah. So there's a lot of, but it is, the first most important thing is intoxication. Intoxication, and these things are not, it's hard to reverse them. A lot of people think they're reversible. It's not like that. It's hard to reverse the damage. Okay? It's easy to break it. Now, yes, brother. Can you repeat it again? Louder, please. I couldn't hear you, sorry. The best advice looking for knowledge in our time? Okay, so what do you want to do with that knowledge? That's the first question out. To give dawah? Okay. Well, again, there's a difference between a da'i, a caller to Islam, a person who conveys the knowledge of the ulama, talib al-ilm, a person who is a talib or a student of knowledge, a sheikh or imam who's like an alim, okay, and then someone who's like a mufti, and then someone who is like a hafid, for example. And the word hafid was not usually used as just a hafid of the Quran. It was usually used for like a master of like hadith. For example, Hafid ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, rahimahullah, and others. And then someone like Shaykh al-Islam. Okay, and Shaykh al-Islam is not only Ibn Taymiyyah, rahimahullah, but it was a title that was given to some of the very, very knowledgeable who mastered like all the sciences basically of things. So there's levels. If you're just doing dawah, then some of the mashayikh that follow Quran Sunnah, and they can teach you the foundations, fundamentals of Islam, of knowledge of Deen, Arabic, Quran, and Seerah, and you stick to what you know. Don't go outside. It's very tempting when you have like a table and there's a camera on you to start giving fatawas and stuff like that. Be careful of that, okay? Social media. Take what you know and convey that to the people, give them dawah. If you don't know something, you can refer to people who know. And that's it. If you want to go higher, then obviously there's a lot more that needs to be done. Yeah. Yes, brother. What? What's zina? Zina is when a man and a woman engage in relationships that are outside of marriage. They're not married and they are together in private. This is basically they do something what's haram, and this is zina. Yeah? So a man and a woman can be together only when they're married. Yeah? Or if like a brother, sister, family, they're together, it's different. But what I'm talking about together here is like having relationships. Yeah? Doing something haram. Understand? How old are you? 12? Yeah, so you know what I'm talking about. Alright, so zina is when a man and a woman do something haram. Yeah? Yes. Naam, Sheikh. Excellent.
Yesterday you mentioned the recovery program like Christians have for drug addiction and other things. That includes like the 12-step program.
12-step, yeah.
They have Alcoholics Anonymous,
So the question was? I couldn't hear properly. Can you just put it closer to your mouth?
Oh, okay. Yesterday you mentioned about the Christian programs for recovery failure.
Yeah,
Does that include like the 12-step?
The 12-step.
Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous, those type of programs as well.
Okay.
And basically for Muslims, the Muslims are involved in the 12-step.
Okay. So what I was saying yesterday is when Christianity is attached to those programs, they tend to fail because when Christianity preaches, the concept of fear of God is really not that present. So if AA programs or 12-step programs are separate, I think they're better than to be attached to like a parish or a Christian organization. Because usually when it's a Christian organization, they do take these people to church and they somehow combine the two. Yet when a Christian reads and understands some of the sermons, it's all about love. The whole fear of God and the whole discipline and haram and halal kind of are blurred. Even though it's present in the Old Testament, as you know, in the current Christian theology and doctrine, they are not very important. So when you look at addicts, they're gonna, in their mind, they're gonna be like, yeah, but if God loves me and I'm gonna go to heaven for accepting Jesus, I can still give in to my desires. And that's why most Christians, whether it's zina, smoking, many things that are against the Bible itself, they do it because they justify. And this whole concept of invalidating the Sharia of Musa alayhi salam and of the previous prophets was, it took place over time, but it can be traced to one major event that happened supposedly in the life of Isa alayhi salam, but it was an interpolation. When you look at the historical scriptural studies on that verse, you will find that it was a made-up verse. It's an interpolation. And that is the event when the prostitute was brought forth to be stoned. And Jesus said, let the first person who has no sin cast a stone. So none did. Right? And there's other events, but that itself was one of the invalidations of the Sharia of Musa alayhi salam and of the prophets before. And there's a long history that deals with that also. There's other verses, for example, it's not what goes into your mouth that makes you dirty, it's what comes out of your mouth. One of the dreams of Paul, the Apostle Paul, and others. When you look at and study the history of Christian law and the progression of it, or the regression of it, you'll find that that's kind of how it happens. So with Islam, if you have a program with Islam, it's heavily based on a balance between hope and fear. Like you have hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah is merciful and forgiving, but at the same time, you're also afraid of this punishment and what might happen. So I think they're more effective. And I think from a secular perspective, if they're the ones without Christianity, I think also they can be more effective. Like AA, the 12 steps. Some people, they go through it and they do have successful outcomes with it. Yeah. Khair, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless all of you. Barakallahu feekum. Wa assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. To increase testosterone levels, you have here, mashallah, two experts. Okay, Brother Hussein and Brother Munir, they are very much involved in the da'wah scene, and they are trying to get men back to a understanding of nutrition based on the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, the importance of the amana, or the trust of the body that Allah has given you. So they work with different brothers and helping them to change their habits of eating and exercise and so on, health, because your health is amana. And this is very important, very important. We take it very light, especially in the Muslim community. We take it very, very, very lightly and do not care about our health. And they're mashallah experts in their field, so you can talk to them if anyone wants to. And they do a lot of great work. But you can talk to them, but be active, lift heavy, meat diet, good sleep, sunlight. So you guys are blessed with sun. It's nice. MashaAllah. It's a lot of actually things that increase testosterone. And get married, man, and increase testosterone. Inshallah. Believe it or not, like, subhanAllah, speaking of statistics, a person who does PMO and a person who has intimacy with his wife, one's testosterone goes down and one's goes up. SubhanAllah. PMO, porn, masturbation, orgasm. That's the standard definition in addiction. It's referred to PMO. So 12-step is an addiction recovery process. There's different steps. I think within the Muslim sphere, we use for addiction recovery an 8-step process. You can look at like Purifier Gaze, My Tasgah. These programs are, mashallah, out there, and I work with some of them. But yeah, you can look into AA. Just do a search and you'll see their 12 steps. No, brother.
I know you spoke earlier about the podcast, about dating. You guys talking about, you were saying something like that. I got you. I know earlier you mentioned something about a podcast about like what guys look for in a woman,
Yeah.
like Dean, and then looks,
Yeah.
and then also personality. Like I was watching a video and like someone was saying that women don't want to be with guys nowadays because they're boring. So like.
They're what?
Because they're boring. So I'm just
boring.
like, yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
they're
just,
boring.
yeah. So I'm just like thinking about it like I don't understand that, you know? Like, what are we supposed to do? Like, we supposed to be like comedy, like standard? We supposed to be funny? Like, I don't get it. So like, what's your take on that? And like, because I know like what we want, obviously, you know, Dean and looks. That's very more. That's for me at least. It's important, you know. But like, what more? Like, we can't do everything. We're not Superman, you know. So yeah.
That's a very good question. There's a recent study, I think a couple of months ago, and it was published by a lady who looked at what are men looking for and what are women looking for. And again, men is just very simple. I know they were picky with one thing or two things, but subhanAllah, when you look at that pickiness, and girls will say like, you guys are delirious, you know, you're just wish-washing and whatnot. I'll go back to the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, where he said, a woman is married for 4, right? Her deen, her lineage, her beauty, and her money. Okay? She is married for that. And when you look at, and the Prophet ﷺ, he spoke, and what he spoke about, a lot of times, certain things were corrected, but in general, it resonates with the fitrah. Like this is when we usually describe Islam, we say, Islam, deen al-fitrah. It is the deen of the fitrah. So men do value these things. And the Prophet ﷺ said that a woman is responsible for 4 things. If she does it, she enters Jannah. Right? It is to pray her 5 daily prayers, to fast her month, to, the trigger word, obey her husband, trigger, and to guard her chastity. 4 things. Why? Where's La ilaha? Of course, she should be Muslim. La ilaha Muhammad Rasulullah is by default, yeah? Okay, Hajj, well, liman istata'a ilayhi sabila. Maybe she cannot do it. So she's not really, okay, Hajj. Zakah, depends, there's nisab or not. Okay? So really 4 things. Which means the value of a woman is in 4 things. If she loses value, okay, let's say she prays and fasts, even that is a bit difficult these days. For many people, men and women, let's look at it. But then obedience, trigger, because controlling and this and that. So a lot of women have problem with this one, with obedience. So you kind of lost value there. And now if you lose it in your like chastity as well, you know, you don't wear proper hijab, you're mixing and messing about and this and that. Well, where is the value now? It's not. But to go back to your, so men were easy. For women, this list, the lady said that there's a huge list of things that will basically invalidate a man. And yes, indeed, entertainment is one of them. And when you look at the way the world is run, you can look at this. Who has purchasing power? No. Men make the money. Purchasing power is with women. They buy. They'll take your money and spend it. Okay, but in general, when you look at economics and the economy, in terms of purchasing and shopping, women. Men do business, yes, on that scale, but I'm talking about purchasing power in terms of economics, it is women. That's why fashion industry, who's they targeting? Like, bro, you walk into a fashion store and you have to look for the men's section. It's like, and it's horrible clothes, man. right? But you look in the women's section, it's like you go like what? You got like Macy's or JCPenney, or it's like female section, it's like, right? And the man is like one little corner. And literally you find like 2-3 men in the store, and rest is, wait a minute, people get upset, but that's the truth. Look at advertisements. Who does it target? Fashion, makeup, everything pretty much targets entertainment. Yeah, they'll make some commando and fighting movies and this and that, but in general, it's all like series now. Vampires and werewolves and love stories and musalsalat, whether, in Arabic or English or Turkish now, and all this thing, right? And who subscribe, who watch, who this, who that. In general, you find that is, and it's increasing now even more. It is, and they know that. They're targeting them. It's not that, oh, women are this and that, but they're studying this. They know exactly how to push it and how to manage. So entertainment is a big part. Women now, they want to be entertained. They want things to be funny, exciting, interesting. If not, they get bored. Before, there was no choice. Because there was no comparison. You couldn't go on your phone and be like, oh, my friend is with her husband in Dubai, taking selfies of their coffee with little hearts inside, with the cream, right? Right, with the peace sign on, right? And then what she does, she's like, man, why does my husband not take me to Dubai to do pictures of cappuccino with hearts in? He doesn't love me. I'm bored now. So now, they're scrolling to things, seeing exciting things. They're only seeing the highlights of these people's family. Probably after the coffee, they had a fight, that couple or something, But they only see these highlights, the deception, and then they start comparing. They start feeling sad. They start feeling like they're not valued. This and that. They look, well, that's exciting. This movie, the way a movie can make a woman feel, subhanAllah, and I'm doing a female psychology class next weekend. It's a master class, 101. It's only for brothers. I did one for sisters. I started with that, to teach women how do men think. And I gave them a whole 3-4 hour class. Only women were allowed to register to understand how does the mind of a brain of a man work, And now I'm doing it for men to learn how does the brain of the woman work. And I'm going to use hadith, Quran, and the studies. But women compare. Their mind works very different than ours. They fantasize. They construct things in their minds. And they get infatuated very easily. A woman can watch a 2-hour video or movie and her life can change. And that is why most of the mashayikh were so against this Barbie movie. And they were really pushing parents not to allow their daughters to go and see it. And I can tell you, from a neuropsychological perspective, neuroscience, cognition, and behavior, which is my study, that a woman's life can change from a 2-hour video. And a video like Barbie and the amount of subtle messages as well as open message that it had can actually change a little girl's life forever. How she sees men, how she sees life, and how she sees herself. And a girl can become depressed within hours if another girl will tell that she's ugly, or other girls will say that this one's more beautiful, or this or that. Those thoughts are going to start eating her alive and build a low self-esteem that economy is going to bank on by pushing more so-called pretty genetic, almost engineered, altered faces with makeup, and if you use a baby wipe to wipe it off, you're gonna see a totally different thing. But they're pushing it on and on and on, and your own daughter now is falling into depression because she says, I'm not pretty. Allah created you beautiful. And that's why it's important for fathers to keep mentioning to their daughters how beautiful they are. naturally. Hug your daughters. Hold your daughters. Kiss their forehead. Kiss their cheeks. Tell them you're beautiful. Your hair is beautiful. You don't need some schmuck to tell you that you're beautiful. Or some person who's making money off makeup. That Allah has created you. Allah has created women with value in their beauty. It's just the way it is. We didn't really get it like that as men. Right? I mean, you're not going to go and be like, mashallah, you're so beautiful, brother. Right? It doesn't work like that. Even though Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam was given half. And the Prophet, right? And then the Aisha radiallahu anha said that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was extremely good looking. But in general, most of the other guys, yani, may Allah help us, yani, right? It's not like you're going to be like super, right? Like aesthetically speaking, the way, even in design, right? Straight lines are strong, right? But curves are appealing. Anything, even in design, when you look at any of the engineers here, you know that anything that's round it looks very beautiful. Even in architecture. But straight lines, yani we are qa'im, we are straight, strong. It's different, right? So, yeah, they want entertainment. Do you have to be an entertainer? I would say, be a bit mysterious. Don't be an open book to your wife or to the woman that you're going to marry. Keep her on her toes. Keep her on her toes. A woman will be very attracted to a man who has a mission and he's not so open about everything. There's a bit of mysteriousness to him. And that's okay. The Prophet ﷺ would not tell every single thing to his wives. Okay, women respect men that they cannot predict. Okay, be a bit unpredictable. Doesn't mean you have to be bad or lie or anything like that. It's just be a bit mysterious.
What's your view on people moving out of the States, like a Muslim country or the United States?
Moving out of the States, making hijrah.
Yeah.
If you can do it, Bismillah. But don't expect to find like the land of the Sahaba in everywhere you go. Don't put your guard down. This is my advice. I've lived and traveled over 40 countries. I've not just saw them, but lived and worked with them, with many of them. And I can say that we are a bit deluded as to what we'll find there. It's better. I still believe it's better. I still believe it is better. But don't let your guard down. Okay, just like you don't let your guard down if you put your children in Saturday Sunday school or Islamic school and you think that's it. Khalas, No. Keep your guard up. Even when you go to Muslim country, make a hijrah, there will be many challenges. No.
How can we have access to that? You said you're going to give a class.
Oh, it's on all. I usually advertise it on my social media, any of my YouTubes or on Instagram on my link in bio. You'll find all my classes in my Instagram, in my link in the bio or my YouTube videos. Yes, bro. Is there a halal way of dating? Okay, yeah. So is there a halal way of dating? Okay, so don't kill me. Yes, there is. Okay, and that is make your nikah first. Don't move in yet. Do you understand? So do your nikah. Okay, by Sharia you are now halal. And you don't have to necessarily move in and start your life yet. I've been advising communities and parents to try to sort things out, the two families, to help the young men and women to get married. Do the Shari Nikah, help them maybe with like an apartment or to live with one of you or have certain, if the brother's studying or whatever, take it easy, maybe not yet move in. I understand maybe they're not of the age yet or whatever issues we can, again, there's so many restrictions and whatnot, but at least make the nikah. And I think if the two fathers and the two mothers, the two sides of the families work together, I think things can be worked out. So the boy and the girl can meet, for example, on the weekends. They can go outside in the park. They can hold hands. It's their halal. And khalas, you can, you can even consummate the marriage if you want. It's permissible. It's halal. right? But the family is helping with a bit of the responsibilities, with the strategic understanding that things are difficult these days. So either you throw your kids to the sharks, or you teach them how to swim, or how to, avoid the deep waters. نعم. خلاص بارك الله فيكم جزاكم الله خير سبحانك وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم.